Great. Recording is on. Um, cool. So, yes, so we'll be talking about Python modules and libraries really quickly, and then we can just get back to Selenium and Prankur will take over then. So, first of all, what are Python modules and libraries, right? So, these things that you guys have been using, like Selenium, that's a Python module, right? So we will briefly discuss why do we need such modules, like why do you have to go over like all this installation process, and then how can you import them, which is what you guys have already been doing like in the code, right? And then what are some common modules and their usage. So I'll quickly talk like one or two sentences about these important modules so that it at least you know where can you start your googling from, right? So why do we need modules, right? So this helps you organize a very large number of files in a logical manner. So, and what do we mean by a large number of files? Like what is that number roughly, right? So some of these modules can go up to 1,000 different files, and they're all put together as a single unit so that you can invoke the code within them in by including it, right? And what does it mean to include it, or rather import it? Include is more of a C terminology, and let's not use that. But import is something like you're say telling your computer that okay, this is the code that I want to use, and please, whenever you are trying to interpret my code, also look at this other code which tells you how to interpret my code. Okay, so that the functions are defined in the modules, right? So this kind of a thing is intended more for us than for the computer, because it lets us logically sort of define stuff to break things out into bigger chunks, right? Although, of course, it also makes computer processing our code easier, but most importantly, it helps us think of different parts in a logical manner, right? And third point, which is very important and which is what you guys need the most from what I've understood, is that it has a lot of readily available functionality. Like every time you want to say find a prime number, you shouldn't write a function from scratch, right? Or if you want to say find like sine theta of something, you shouldn't have to write the function from scratch. Okay, so a lot of readily available functionality is made available using these modules. And one such functionality that we'll be going very deep into is Selenium, right? So this whole web scraping thing and getting data from there, that's like a functionality that's made available to you. Cool. So how do you import them? You've seen this already. So pardon the repetition, people. So you simply write import math, right? Now that you have this library, what you can do is use it to calculate a bunch of values. Okay, for example, sine of theta, right? Sine phi. And that's almost zero because pi is not exactly 3.14. So, quick question. Can anyone tell me like what's like a parallel to this in in R? Like what's a module or a library in R? Or name a few libraries in R?
Package.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. Exactly. So you do it's called a package. Yes. Can you name a few packages? Something that's commonly used.
ggplot.
Yep, absolutely. There's dplyr, which is like for all data processing pretty much, I guess it's used. So yeah, all these things are sort of, used in uh, R as well. In pretty much all programming languages, you have libraries and modules. Okay, in Java you do, in in MATLAB you do, right? And here as well you do. So to show you some more examples, right? Now, what are you doing here, right? This is the library name and this is the function name, right? So what you are saying is from the math library, invoke the sign function. Now let's change it a little bit. Math library, invoke the sign function, but invoke it on the value pi, right? So I can't remember pi. I can't like write out pi, right? I can't like 3.14, whatever the next um, numbers are every time I have to invoke pi. So what I'll do instead is it's stored in a module called math in numpy, in Python, and you just invoke it this way, right? And here you can see the value is to the power of minus 16, which is very close to zero, right? So that is what we do, right? Now, what happens if I somehow, forget the import statement? So if you just write this os dot get cwd, wow, that's a weird glitch. Yeah, os dot get cwd. So if you try this out, what happens? Can anyone like quickly try it out and tell me what happens?
Some working directory.
Yep, that's what it does. But you have not imported OS yet. So it essentially says name OS is not defined. So you always need to remember that when you see that anywhere, like it could be a variable name, which we saw early on, right? Like let's say p equals a plus 1. This will fail with the same error. Similarly, a module is also treated in the same manner, right? You need to import it first, right? And only then can you invoke its functions. Okay. And that particular function is for working directory. So what does it mean? OS are a set of functions which are specific to your operating system, and then you get like a whole bunch of functionality from there. One functionality which is very commonly used is that within Python script, you can find out which folder you are in. So right now I'm in my home folder, users slash my username, right? So just try that out, check what your home directory is on Spider, right? Now, uh, the next thing that I would like to, we have looked at math sign, you can check out math tan as well, right? Now, the next kind of interesting thing is that you have paths that are at multiple levels, right? So far, you've only seen things like math.sign or math.py. In Selenium, there was more, like, there were three levels of modules, right? Or three level paths. Similarly, let's try this os dot path dot this. Okay. I just copied that, people, and it returns true. So what does this mean, right? This is module OS. Within the module OS, there is a submodule called path. And within that submodule, there is a function called exists. And we want to invoke that function. Okay. And that's how we do it. os.path.exist. And this could go on for in like n number of levels, right? But it usually we try to keep it short, like two, three, one even, right? Like not that deep. So this is what you use. Now, how can I import path directly? Like, say I wanted to try out path.exists, right? So path is not defined, right? So let's say I write it this way: from OS import path, right? And now you can try this out. Simply path.exists, right? So this says that from module OS, import the submodule path. You can try it out and it works, right? Now, say if I wanted to import exists directly, right? From OS dot path import exists. Cool. And now you can just try this out, right? And in terms of functionality, all it's doing is it's checking whether or not that path exists. Okay, and I can try this. CB, that's my username, and sure, the path does not exist. Cool. Does that make sense? Any questions on modules and how to import them and invoke them? Anything so far? No. So I'll just quickly talk about the common modules then. Okay. So, and this is sort of like should be the biggest takeaway that, these names. Numpy is something that you use to do like fast calculations of a large number of data points, right? And also it sort of maintains a bunch of structure to the data. Okay. What I mean by that is like you can denote tables as matrices, right? So I hope everyone here has heard of what a matrix is, right? And SciPy is like for more kind of scientific stuff, like if you're doing machine learning, that's what you would do. Math is for a lot of the common stuff that you want, like prime number is in math, right? Or average, you can find it there. Numpy has its own average and it's faster because of the way it represents data, right? And then Pandas is something that we'll be learning more about. This has to do with data frames and how data frames are organized, right? From speaking from sort of an R context, right? And finally, uh, Munir, can you mute for a bit?
Sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine. And then Selenium, as you guys know already, it is for web scraping, right? And finally, OS. OS is something you will use when you're trying to like save files or you're trying to check if a file exists or not. So to do all the operations that are, say, on your file system, pretty much all the operations, not all of them, you will use OS. And there are a lot of these modules, and that is sort of the nice thing about Python, that it gives you the ability to invoke these modules, which have been maintained and coded up by like entire like an army of engineers, right? So that's pretty cool and super useful. And that's pretty much all I had. Any questions on the common modules, people?
Is it, for example, Numpy or SciPy, or is it exclusive? I mean, for example, normal econometrics stuff, are we using Numpy or Pandas, whichever?
Yeah. So for the econometric stuff, like for regression, right, you will use SciPy. But I am not like fully aware of all the different things, for example, and like for doing like um, doing some basic data analysis, you'll use both NumPy and SciPy and Pandas, right? So it's a conjunction of NumPy, SciPy, and Panda, I would say. All three of them are used together in some sense, yeah. But all the, complex functionality is usually in SciPy. Yeah. And NumPy and Pandas are more or less ways of handling your data and doing some basic processing on it. But if you want to do something complex on your data, then SciPy is the way to go. Yeah. Anything else, people? Okay, then I'll hand it over to Prankur. And Prankur, go ahead.
Cool. Thanks, Akil.
I'll enable screen sharing. Yeah. Done.
Okay. Great. So, just a minute. Okay. All right. So first, very briefly, we need to do this Java. Let's make sure that you guys have Java working. So for that, could you guys please, so you'll have to do this with me, open command prompt, or if you're on Mac, open terminal. I don't know how to increase the font here. Sorry about that. But all I'm writing here is, so in CMD, just type Java dash version, or just type Java. That's also fine. Essentially, you should not get a Java not found error. If you guys, if all of you.
Maybe you can control plus, maybe that will work to increase the font size.
Not working.
In Mac it works. Sorry.
It's okay. Let me actually try this other thing. Let me stop share. It's just you just have to do. You can just share the command prompt. Maybe that will help. I don't know. If you can just see. And then all you have to do is just press Java version, or actually version is sort of important. So you should have 1.8.
I don't have. I am Java not recognized. I followed this.
Okay. So the first thing to make sure is we did. So like, let's just install Java. You look for install Java, and then you go to the java.com download page, right? And then right here, it's agree and start free download, right? So once it's downloaded and installed, if you like, did everyone?
Prankur, we can only see your command prompt right now. We can't see.
Oh shit! Sorry. I forgot. Okay. Now you should see it.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So basically, this is the website, java.com. And then so if you downloaded Java and installed from here, then the only thing that is missing is to set the path. Okay.
Yeah.
So, so for that, first we need to find out where Java is. So open your My Computer equivalent if this is not working. And then usually it is in C program files. I don't know if it's like in it's not here. So it must be in the other program files, right? This one. And it's right here, Java, right? So you go there, and then you have this folder, and then you have the bin folder. So basically, you just need to have the location of this folder, wherever this folder is, the bin folder within Java, right? Once we get there, then you have to set up the environment variables. For that, right-click on Windows. I'm forgetting this.
Advanced search.
Oh yeah. What's that?
Advanced systems.
Yeah.
Or just write environment variables in your thing, and then you get this edit environment variables if you're on Windows 10. Munit, is Java working for you?
Yeah, I have installed Java, but I don't know how to find this folder. Could you please?
That's okay. Did you try the Java on terminal? You're on Mac, right? Just try Java. Just try typing Java in terminal. See what you get.
Hello.
Yeah.
It says that to use Java command line tool, you need to install a JDK.
So have you installed Java then?
Yeah, I have installed.
From that web. So basically, again, you also have that path issue. So for Mac, it's like a different way to do it. And I don't know if, Saket, do you use a Mac?
Maybe
Yes,
after the
yeah, I'll
Should
just,
we put
I'll
you
tell,
and Munir in a breakout room? Meanwhile, you can sort his Mac thing on
sure,
like that.
let's
Yeah.
do that. Absolutely.
thank you.
So, okay, so back to the Windows bit. So go to your start menu and just type environment variables or environment, and you'll see something like this: edit the system environment variables. Right? Click on this. And again, like now everything would be super tiny. So sorry for that. But there would be an environment variables that you will see. Click on that. And now let me again try a new.
People start joining the breakout room. Okay, where are the others? Shit. Okay. Oh, no. Let me post it on Signal.
Oh, you close the meeting.
I closed the breakout room that I don't know.
Yeah, they're joining it.
Sorry. Sorry everyone for breaking the momentum. I closed the breakout room and it kicked everyone out.
That's okay. That's okay.
Okay.
So we were almost done. So like Arushi, is it working for you now?
I think it's fine. You guys should carry on. Let me just do it again. It must be something really stupid like the title that I had made.
This is like a good practice is just to copy paste from like right click properties, the path. Don't like manually type the path.
Yeah, that's what I was doing. Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Rangor, could you please repeat what you have done if you don't mind?
Sure.
Okay.
All I did was I went to share screen to share. Okay. So all I did was I went to environment variables here, and then this would be super tiny. So sorry for that. But within this, you have this environment variables down here. You click on that, and now you see the user path as well as the system paths. So there are two things to be done here. One, you have to find out where your Java is installed. So mine is in this Java JRE 1.80271. This is where I navigated it. So like this is where it is. So this is my path. So copy that path. And then if you cannot see Java home in your system variables, create one by the name Java underscore home. And this is the path. So you go to new and then variable name, you type in Java home like that. And then you copy this path where your Java was located. And then you just put the variable value in here. Or you can also use browse directory from here. And that's it. So then you click OK, that will get entered. And then in the path, so path right here, you click edit. And then just make sure that you have this Java path here. Like I have it top here. If you don't, then you can just click on again new and then see it'll give you an option to add a new path. And again, you paste it. So you click new and then you paste like this, like I just did, and then /bin. That's it. So this is like just mechanical for me. This is essentially like when you're like we talked about this yesterday, right? This is the same issue that you were having with Gecko driver, that Gecko driver is also like this library that whatever we are doing Selenium in Selenium it uses. So it needs to find the Gecko driver somewhere, and the obvious place to find it is in the system paths. So you add the path to that file in your system path, or you put it in one of these paths. So most of the Windows files are in System32. You must have heard this if you ever tried to encounter some OS issues. Right? It's everything is in System32, which is where most of these files are. Okay. So that was it. So I'm going to assume that it is working, because if not, I think we'll get stuck at step 2. Because the first step is, okay, let's see where we were last time, right? So I will just open. So this was the script that we wrote last time, which I showed, which had like which was doing 2 states. I will again not use the loop because we want to handle one at a time. And then you guys your assignment would be to put it all in the loop, as most of you have already done for states, and then even do this for districts, right? So let's run this first, and then let's see where we are at. So we were able to open Firefox, and then we were able to open the website. We were able to open a select state, and then open another state, right? So we were able, you couldn't see much because of like small sleep times, but this is what we were able to do. Cool. Okay. Now, once we are on this page, then the next task is to download this file, right? And you see like this file has a lot of data. So this is where the data is. So this is one table, this is the second table, this is the third table, and this is the fourth table. So it's got 4 tables. And we somehow want to do this. So now, since it is a PDF, instead of trying to extract these tables first, like from the web, what you should ideally do is, so one thing to understand about web scraping is that when you're trying to scrape something, you're connected online, right? And it's like an automated connection. So things can go wrong. So you should try to make this connection as brief as possible, right? If you can just get everything on your computer and then you can keep the processing going, right? So it doesn't, so like, for example, it doesn't make sense to be connected online and like say, pick out these numbers one by one while like from Firefox. What would make more sense is to just download this whole PDF file to your computer and then somehow figure out a way to extract it from there. Because then you will at least have all the PDFs on your computer, right? And once you have the PDFs on your computer, then we can talk about how to extract tables from PDF. And given that PDF is such a popular format, and this is where like some of the intuition should start kicking in, that given that PDF is such an important or such a popular file format, and a lot of tables and a lot of data is often published in PDF format, there must be something that someone has done to extract tables out of PDF, because Python has such a big community, right? So we can be reasonably certain of that. So for now, let's focus on how do we download this. So like if you were to download it as a human, what would you do, right? You would just like look for this particular link. So here it has this print link. And then if I click on the print link, I'll get this Microsoft print to PDF, and then I print it and then it will get saved. Okay, so those are a few steps. The other steps, the other thing that we could do is notice that this page says .pdf, right? So what this means is online, this is a PDF file stored in some server. And we are just trying to extract. So what Firefox is doing here is it is acting as a, so like you see this page 1 of 7 zoom, and you can zoom the page. So this is not the Firefox zoom, this is the PDF zoom. So essentially, this Firefox is right now acting as a PDF browser. So this is a PDF file that exists on a server. So let's try doing something. Let's try Googling download PDF from web Python, right? And let's see if we get something. Okay, so this is how to download PDF files using Python. And that is exactly what we're trying to do. We are trying to download PDF files using Python, right? So let's see what it tells us. Okay, so one thing about Stack Overflow now, and like we'll just do a brief thing. So Stack Overflow is this forum where you sort of like have answers to all sorts of questions. You can even find like questions to Stata on Stack Overflow, even though like Stata list, which is another thing, is like the best platform for it. But Stack Overflow is sort of like your should be your to-go place for any coding related questions, because it's a very vibrant community and you often get answers to most commonly faced problems, right? So this is the question part. So someone has posted like a question about like trying to download PDF, and let's look at the answers. So one other thing is sometimes if like an answer will, like you see a number here, right? Instead of a number, there would be a green tick mark if the person who asked the question, for them, the prop method worked, right? And that green tick mark is essentially telling you that that is the best way to do it, or sort of the best way to do it. So you should start there. But right now we don't see any green tick marks. So let's just look at what people have suggested. So there is someone who suggested this requests method, and this is like 5 lines of code. I don't understand it, but we can talk about that. But look at this answer. It says import wget and then wget.download link, and that's it. Okay. So that seems fairly straightforward, right? Like it is just you importing. Wait, sorry about that. Like this is the first answer that we are talking about, which looks slightly big, and we can maybe do it, but let's look at the other answer, which is, it seems very simple and very straightforward, right? So this is just some library wget and then something to download. So again, we just open up Conda because we need to make sure that we have this wget library. So we go to Anaconda, like, and then again do the pip install routing. So pip install wget. for it to work, right? Or to try it out. So I downloaded this already. So this is already satisfied. If it would not be satisfied, you will get a link, or sorry, it will get downloaded for you. Okay. So now we have wget, and we want to try that. Let's go to our console, and let's put URL equal to what is the page that we are trying to download. We're trying to download this fact sheet. Okay, Assam's fact sheet. I copy this web page and I just paste it here. Okay, and now import wget, and then what that guy say? It is wget.download, and then whatever the link was, right? So URL, that is where the link is. That is what our link is. It is this URL. Okay, so it seemed to have done something. Let's go and check whether we got something. So open your main Python window, and wherever, and then click on, so you won't be able to see it probably down here, but there are Variable Explorer, Help, Profiler, Plots, and Files. So click on Files. And then like, see, I see this here. And just to show you, this would got downloaded at 8:13, which is what the time is in Texas right now. So this was the file that just got downloaded. Is this the correct file? Let's try open externally. Perfect, right? Questions?
Could you please show your comments?
So the first thing we did was so again, Munir, for you, this will be through terminal very easily. You have to do pip install wget, right?
Yeah, I have done that. The commands in console.
So in console, all we did was so this is the link to the fact sheet. You can get it by opening the NFHS website, right? And you can try whichever fact sheet you want. So that is the link to the fact sheet. I've stored it in URL. You can also skip storing it if you want. And then just import wget, and then wget.download. So this is again what Saket was talking about this morning, that how you access like different things within a library. So wget is a library, and within that there is this function called download, and it literally downloads the file. If you give it the web link of a PDF file, it will download that file. Yeah. Let's also try something fairly quickly, right? Let me try just google.com, and then we are at Google, and let's see what happens if instead of like a PDF file, we do a web page. I'm not sure. I'm also trying this out for the first time. Let's see. So it says download to wget. I don't know if it did anything. And let's go back. There is some download.wget. Let's open externally. This is a wget file. I'm assuming that this does not work, but I'm not sure. Yeah, someone unmuted. Someone wanted to say something.
How do we check whether our file has been downloaded?
So there is this files option, files tab in Python. So like if you haven't undocked, so like your spider would look something like this, right? Like you have this is something like you'll have the console down here. There would be your reader here. And probably if you did not switch anything, there should be like stuff up here, and in between the console and that stuff, there are like files. But essentially where that file would be is in your working directory. So you can also find out what your working directory is. So and the working directory, if you ran any of your last scripts, then whatever that last script that you ran was, whatever the directory of the last script you ran, that would be your working directory. So that is where this would have downloaded. So like I ran this script, to test it out, and my working directory was C users, this, blah, 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 desktop scraping the Python. This was my working directory. And that is exactly where this file is. But like, so there is no way to change that path, unfortunately. Like if you want to modify, what you should do is you should change your working directory before. So what Saket was talking about earlier, like you do the import OS, and then you do os.change directory, dir, and then that's how you change if you want it to store in a particular place. Okay, I've been speaking way more than I intended to. So questions, more questions. Well, if you don't have questions, then can you confirm? Like, have all of you been able to download the PDF on your computers? Thumbs up.
Yes, I have downloaded.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
All right. Others? Elvin, Bharat,
Yes.
Japneet,
I have
Sujit.
Yes.
Sujit, R. More in chat. What is in chat? Sujit is also done. Okay. Everyone is done. Great. So, Munir, you were also able to get this going, right?
Yes.
Perfect. So now basically what have we accomplished? We went to the browser. Now we know, most of you have tried it out. So now most of you know how to cycle through that web page. And what the cycling through that web page does, it gives us it'll take us to the PDF file one more. But what is happening is I did a little cheat, right? What did I do? I copy pasted this URL, but that is not how it's going to work. So we need to be able to figure out how to get that URL, right? So let's try this thing one more time, right? Like, let me run the scraper one more time, and then let's see what happens. And then, like, let's figure out a way to get that URL automatically. So this is the first one. We go back, and then we open the second one, and then we are here, right? We're not going back. So what do we want? We want to get this URL automatically. We still have our driver, right? So we want to get the URL. So let me try something very lame. Let me just say driver.get URL. Let's see if that does something. It does not have a URL or a get URL link. Let's try driver.url. Does not have that. So how do we do this? Let's again do the search, right? Let's again go to our search browser, and then let's again search how to get current web URL using Selenium Python. Okay. How to get current URL using Selenium in Python? Here is the command, driver.current URL. Cool. So that is what it is. It's not get URL, it is current URL, right? So whatever current page you are at, just tell me that. That is what it suggests. Now let's see if that works for us. Driver.current URL. That is exactly what we needed, right? So now instead of typing out what I typed out earlier, we can just do driver.current URL. And what is in URL? It is that file. It is the URL of that file, right? So now it is basically your homework to figure out where to put this line, where you can, not very difficult to figure out, but I hope you guys do that. So this is essentially, so now where are we in our like scraping process? We are able to go to the web page. We are able to click on the state and open up the state URL, the state fact sheet. We can get the link of that state fact sheet using this driver.current URL. And then we can also download it using wget. Now we have to figure out a way to extract the tables from this file, right? Okay. So I have no idea how to do it. So again, let's open up the help, like let's open up internet. So, and then again, it's like how to extract tables from PDF using Python. All right, there are a bunch of videos, a lot of things happening. Okay, 3 ways to extract tables from PDF, or how to extract. So this is Python code. Pick up any of the links, right? Now, and so the first method that is suggested is tabular. Tabular, and it's like, see how it does it. It says Tabula is a very nice package that allows you to both scrape PDFs as well as convert PDFs directly into CSV files. That is amazing. So what to do? First, install Tabula PY. Has everyone done that? Basically, you open up your Anaconda prompt, you do pip install Tabula PY. Yeah, I'm not actually sure if I told you to install Tabula or did I tell you to install Tabula PY. But so in my case, requirement is already satisfied. But you should just do this. Pip install Tabula PY. Basically, just run this first thing, right? What next? So import Tabula, and this is the PDF file. And then read PDF. So this can essentially, like this can even directly read from the web. It doesn't necessarily need to download. Now, what I prefer is to download the file first instead of giving it the web link, like the web address of the PDF file. You can give it your local address. Now, the reason that I recommend that method is precisely because, like, when this will run, this is not first, it will download the file, right? So it will essentially do the same thing as wget. It will first internally download the file and then start taking tables out of that file. And that process is going to take some time. So it might give you an error and your code might stop. So your code should be piecewise in a sense that first you download all the fact sheets that you want. So you put your loop, you just go, so you cycle through all of the different states and you get all of the PDFs in one go. And then once you have the PDFs in one go, now you're working locally, right? Now you're not relying on internet. And this is more important for like people who like, and especially like in India, where you may not have very reliable internet all the time, right? Or so these are essentially third world issues that here or in the first world, people may not face issues like, okay, your server got down or something. And then the second thing that we need to think about is we are working with a government website also. So if you're working with government websites, they do weird things all the time. Their server goes down, things like that happen. So you have to shorten the duration of your script online, so that you say if the website is working right now, and then you just go in, take 10 minutes, download all the PDFs, and then do whatever you want with the PDFs in your background, right? But this is good to know that this file, that this thing can do files online also if you want. Okay, so what is the function? The function is simply tabula.read PDF. So let's try that out now that we have our we have downloaded this, and this is called factsheet_as.pdf. So I will just copy that and then import Tabula. Okay, Tabula imported. Now let me say tables. I'm exactly like copying what this guy did. Tabula.read PDF, and I will provide input. Okay. Oops, sorry. Okay. So tables is equals to tabula.read PDF. So it says pages argument isn't specified, will extract only one page one by default. Okay, and what did page 1 have? Page 1 just had the title, so no table on page 1. So what is in tables? Nothing, because there was no page. Okay, so today we first learned like one way to look for code, which is online, or to understand, right? And now let's do another thing. So tabular.read pdf question mark, right? This essentially is the help or the documentation for this function. So this will tell us what all we can do in this function, right? Go back up, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so tabular.read PDF. What is the signature? You give it an input path. So we gave it that. That was just our file name because we are in that directory. Then there is something called as an output format. We are not trying to output it yet. We want it to be in Python, so forget about that. And there is this encoding, which is UTF-8, which is the most common form of encoding. So for now, we won't worry about that. Java options. So these are advanced things that you can do, which we don't want to do. Now, multiple pages equals to true. So what this means is that if there are multiple tables in the file, it is probably going to accept them because that has been set to true. Let's say for whatever reason, if you just want one table or the first table, and if you don't want multiple tables, then you can set this to false, right? And what else is there? So this is where it is explaining everything, right? Multiple tables, it enables to handle multiple tables within a page, right? Default is true. If multiple table options is enabled, uses non blah blah blah. Make sure to pass appropriate Pandas options. This is, and so like a lot of you guys have been facing errors, right? So if whatever function gives you an error and you do this question mark thing, it can also tell you what all errors it will give and what is the problem, right? So file not found error, if download remote file doesn't exist, and so on and so forth. Function read PDF only extracts page 1 by default, which is our issue, right? So how do we get multiple pages? So we'll have to set the pages argument. Does it say anything? There it goes. If you want to extract all pages, set pages equals to all, right? This is what it says, pages equal to all. So I'll copy that. And now let's try this. Read PDF, pages equal to all. You see, this is taking like a few seconds. So this is what I was talking about, reducing the time online. Because this will take some time to process. Now, what is tables? Ooh, that looks like the data that is in there, right? But let's first see what is the type of tables, right? That is a good way to do things. So it is a list. So, okay. So what is the length of tables? 4. And what is the first element? What is its type? So it is a data frame. So this is essentially the word like Saket very briefly mentioned while talking about libraries, and we will talk about this a little more in detail. Pandas is essentially the way you handle data in Python. And this is a Pandas data frame, which is identical to how you would build an R data frame, right? Or how in Stata we have that main data set. So this is our data. Let's just see tables 0. It's got 3 columns and it has got 47 rows. And this is the first table, which is indicators, population and household profile, female population needs, blah, 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 blah. This is all that data. Let's go back to our file. How many tables do we have in this file, first of all? We have 1. This is the first table. 2. That is the second table. 3. And 4. So we have 4 tables, and we have 4 tables in our tables list. So that possibly means that it works, right? So we had 4 tables there, and we had 4 tables here. So 4 tables sounds good enough. and we checked for the first table. So okay, let's see what the first table in this is. So the first table here starts with, like, it says indicators right here, which, let me do a side-by-side view. So it says indicators, population and household profile. Oh boy. Because of the zoom, this is becoming very messy to look at. So the last thing is current users ever told about side effects. Something to do with side effects, number 39. What is the last row in this table? Current users ever told about side effects of current method. And what is the first row? As I said, the first row is like this indicators and then household profile. That is what we have at the top. Now it's still possible. Like why am I like doing this? Why did I just not say, oh, hooray, we're done? Because it's possible that when you're scraping these things, one of the rows might be missing or some data might get mismatched. So it is important to very carefully inspect at least one of these things, right? You may still have problems, but you should very carefully inspect what is going on, what is the structure, and whether it makes sense or not. Yeah. So here, like, this is the table, and it seems to be reasonably correct. Yeah. Like you see here, it starts from 0 and it goes up to 47, 46. So there are 47 rows. And how many rows were there in this file? So it has like 39 here and then 40, these headers also, right? So 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, and the top header 47. 47 rows in this table, 47 rows on our table. I'm just doing like one of these inspections. Essentially, you should do all these inspections when you download, or when like for the first time if you're downloading any of these tables. And then once you're done, then we will, okay, I will pause. Sorry, went on for too long. Again, questions?
I have a very silly problem. I
Mhm.
ran tabula.
Hmm.
The error that I'm getting is Java not found.
Oh, so it's again because of was your, like, is your Java working now?
हाँ command prompt में तो चल रहा है.
So maybe then you need to restart Spider once, probably, because the
Oh,
path
okay,
was
okay.
set after Spider session. Maybe
That
that would
makes
be.
sense. That makes sense.
When that does not make sense to me, but it works sometime like that.
Yeah. I'll see if that works.
Yeah. Okay. Others?
I have run the file. There is no any error showing, but result is not coming. I don't know.
You ran the file with pages equal to all.
Yeah, pages all.
This is what you ran, and it doesn't show any error.
No error.
Okay. And what is in tables?
Nothing. No result is coming.
Type tables and then tell me what you see. So like type this out. You are mute.
It is showing list.
And do length of tables.
Four.
Yeah, so you have a result.
But the result is not showing here. Maybe somewhere.
Okay, type tables 0. This table 0.
Oh, table 0. Yeah. Sorry, result is come. Okay.
Cool. More people.
Now I'm getting error WebDriver exception. Failed to decode response from something.
WebDriver exception.
Yeah. I think like I have not gotten that error before.
WebDriver exception from this line, from the tabular line, or was it from the scraping?
I think it's from the driver dot
Driver.current URL.
that should the word.
Yeah, for current URL, I am also getting some error.
What is the error that you are getting?
1 minute.
So that will only work if your web scraper is open, right? And if it's like if the driver connection is maintained. So like I did not close these things, and that is why I can still do like I think like even if I still do driver.current URL after all of this other jargon, I will get.
It is saying WebDriver object has no attribute current.
WebDriver object has not
Attribute current.
does not have, so it is current underscore URL. It won't be just current. You can look at my screen and look at the exact.
Okay.
It is driver dot current underscore URL.
Okay.
A good way is also to try driver dot, like, so whenever you're doing this, like you start typing current and then you press tab, and then it will show you what all commands are available. So there is current URL and there is current window handle. So then I just do current URL with the tab completion, and then I will get this. So this is just to verify that it has those attributes that you're trying to access. Sometimes it may not work, but mostly it works.
I figured out what my problem was. It was that I had opened another tab and I forgot.
Yeah. Okay, those sorts of things. Like, don't disturb that window. Is
Yeah.
essentially the main thing. If you do anything to that window, then it changes its properties, and then like your driver properties. Anyway, that doesn't matter because when you eventually run the script, you won't be interfering. That's the whole idea. So okay, so others, Japni, Helvin, Bharat, Suchi, Deepak.
Yeah, I was able to do it. It
Yes,
has
even
the table. It has the tables and everything.
Okay. Any questions? Anyone?
yes, I have a question. When you write tables, square bracket 0, it is showing 40, 40, 46, 47 rows
What?
and 4 columns.
Three
When
columns.
we yes, but why only index 0 is showing all these? What does it mean?
What index 0? This
Means
index 0.
we are tables. Yes.
Yeah.
No.
So that is because there are, here, this 0. So that is because, so we extracted multiple tables, right? Like this document has 4 tables. This is the first table. This is the second table. This is the third table. And then we have the fourth table. So this has like 4 different tables. This is one long table for us, but for Python, it has 4 different tables because it's on 4 different pages, and it has been structured so that it has 4 different tables. We'll have to merge these eventually, but these are 4 different tables for now. So tables is a list containing all these 4 tables, and I'm just accessing the first table by saying table 0. If you do tables 1, you will get the next table. Right? So tables 1, you get this next table, which goes up from like the 74. So this is 55 rows. This must be the second table in the document. If you want, we can verify. Here, so it starts from this 40 number and it goes to 74. So this one is going to 74. Yeah? Does that answer it?
But there are many columns. We are not able to find all that columns.
Yes, that is the part that we will get to next. So let's verify first that everyone is with us till here. Everyone good? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So now what do we have? So first, this is like a little difficult. Okay, let's see what so first, let us just import. I don't know how this works because this was working but we haven't imported pandas yet, right? So So I'm just importing pandas as PD because this is what we are going to use now to handle these data frames. And then let's just work with one data frame. So I'm just calling it data frame, and this is in tables 0. Right? So this is our first data frame. Now, like we did in dictionary, this also has this option called keys. And this tells us what the rows are. This is not very helpful. So we just have 3 of these, which is the first one is unnamed, the second one is NFHS5, and the third one is NFHS4. Okay. So now, so this is the first data frame. This has a function called head. What it does is, if you don't provide anything, it gives you the first 5 rows so that we can manage to see. But it is like trimming these columns, right? And today I'm like all in Google mode. So let's again look at Google and then see how to view all columns, pandas. Right? How do you view all columns in pandas? How to show all columns rows of pandas data frame, big article, blah, blah, blah. So, okay. So PD, which is like the panda, you set an option, which is display.max columns, none. Okay, so I copy this, go back, I paste that command here. So set option display max column, none. And let's try the df.head again. Now we see all the columns, right? So what do we see? This is our first column, which has the indicators, population, household profile, blah, blah, blah. This is the second column, right? NFHS5 was the second column. And like, see, this column is like, it contains all the 3 columns. It contains urban, rural, and total in one column. And then NFHS4 is total, right? There is another way to see this. Let's export this to CSV, and the command for that is .tocsv. And this is assam1.csv, right? But where did this go? This went to desktop. So like, this is my working directory. This is the CSV, assam1. Okay, I need to increase. So you see, this is what the file looks like. I'm just increasing these bits a little. So this is the index thing. This is the indicator. This index is put by Python, right, for rows. And then these are the indicators, which are the numbers in the first row. The second column has these issues. Yes, someone wanted to say something. Okay. So this is our problem. We have to split this into 3, right? We need to split this column into 3. How do we do it? If you want, you can do this in Excel also. Like, how do you do it in Excel? You just copy this and remove this first. And now you create space. And now this is, you go to data. And then you go text to columns. And you say this is delimited by a space, because you see there is a space between all of these. So you go space, see here, it will do this. If you don't know this, doesn't matter. We'll learn how to do this in Python. But this is how you can do it in Excel if you are more comfortable with Excel or handling data in Excel. This is how you can do it. Cool. Let's go back to it. Okay. So basically, DF. Sorry. What were the keys? DF keys. NFHS5 is our key, right? So I write NFHS5 like that. And what does this give us? This will give us just that column, right? And we have to split this column. So we'll just work with this column for now. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Again, let's go back up. Split pandas column into multiple columns, right? Split a text column into multiple columns. This is what it says. Actually, let's go back. This answer, like this, seems like our issue, right? How to split a column into two columns. As I said, Stack Overflow, and this is, see, that tick mark that I was talking about. If you have this tick mark, this means the solution works. So apparently, row.string.split. That is our function that we want. Let's copy this. But this is just for one row. So we need to modify it accordingly. Yeah. Oops. Let's move that. Let's just do this. Sorry. Okay, I have this written. I want to cheat. But let's look at some other solution. So like this solution didn't work. Let's see there is something else. Let's prove. Okay. So data frame is this, and then they split it into these two columns. This is exactly what we want to do, right? That this is the data frame, name each one, and we want to split, like, so this guy splits the name into two parts. We also want to do something very similar. How does they do it? Right. So df. So here they are providing new column names for whatever you want the new columns to be. And then here is where they're splitting it. So df.name, by saying df.name, this is the column that they're specifying to split. Dot string split expand equals to true. Okay. Let's try this. First, let's try out just that last command, right? So df nfhs 5 dot string dot split. Okay, what did we get? 3 columns, and it got split. Urban, rural, total, and we have our numbers. Cool. So we have split that. How do we inculcate this in our main thing? What was the thing that we copied? So this was this, right? So this is our original data frame. We need new names. So what are the new names that we need? Let's say these are urban, rural, and total. So those are the new names. Urban, rural. So we have 3 splits. So 3 names. And here we tell it. So there are 2 ways to access a column in Pandas. One is this. You put the name of the data frame, so df, dot the name of the column. So now since we have dashes and all in the column name, that won't work. So the other way is to do this. So df.name is equivalent to this. So like whoever wrote could also write it like that. It's the same way. Yeah. Instead, what we're doing is nfhs 5 dot string dot split expand equals to true. What this means, I don't know, but let's see. So it's saying take this column, access the string part of this column or the string library or str or whatever, and then split it. So that sounds right. And then what it is saying is that expand is equals to true. So we need to expand this column, right? We are splitting it. So we are splitting the column into something. And then whatever that split is doing, we are saying expand it. By expand, it probably means that put it in different columns, right? If you're curious, you can try what happens if you do not pass this command, right? Which, let's actually do it. Before we do this, let's do that. Df nfhs 5.str.split and let's not do anything about it. Or let's actually do expand equals to false. That is the opposite, right? This is how we can learn what is it doing. It's not EPAND, it's expand. Yeah. Okay. Oh, so see, so now we just have one column, but that column becomes a list. So if you put expand equals to false, then it'll still split it, but it'll split it and put it into a list and still keep it in one column. This is still one column, but all of these are lists now. And if you do expand equals to true, then it splits it and then it separates the list into 3 columns. So it uses this list of 3 as 3 columns. Does that make sense? I get a nod from you, so I will go ahead and believe that it works. And now, so having understood that, let's do this. And now let's see df.head. What do we have? Okay, now we have this original column, but now we have these columns at the end. Yeah. So we got the split column. How many columns are there in this? If you just type df, sorry, how do we find out how many columns do we have? Size, I think. df.size. Maybe it is this size. Not that. I don't know. df.keys you can try, and then that will tell you.
Yeah, df.
Yeah. Sorry. Thanks, Munir. So df.keys tells you how many of you have. So this was the first unnamed one. This is the clubbed 3. This is the last column, and then these 3 are the broken down ones. Cool. So that was actually more than I had planned for today. I just planned to show you that, and we are at 8:55. So I'm done. Let's actually, I'm tempted. Let me actually just show you one quick thing. So df is equals to pd dot data frame, right? So this is, I just did this, and right? And now df is equals to df dot append tables 0. So this was the first table. So I appended that. This was the second table. I appended that. Third table. There is a better way to do this, and I hope you guys are thinking about it right now. What I'm doing. There is a much better way to do this, right? And now if you look at df, it has got 189 rows and 7 columns. Why it has 7 columns? Because we already split this first one. That is why it has 7 columns. But see, that column is not. So you should do this before you do this. And there's actually, forget about that. But this is the command that I wanted to show, append. So what this does is, you're saying the new data frame df, change df by taking the original data frame. So first this was empty. Append, meaning add at the end, append, right? So append what? Table 0. And what is table 0? Table 0 was our first data frame that we had. So that is the first one that you appended. What did we do next? Next we appended the second one. So here now this df contains the first table now. And we are appending to it the second table. And now this df contains the first two tables, append to it the third, and then append to it the fourth. By doing this, what I've done in df, now we have all the tables from the Assam fact sheet, right? And then once you do this, you can apply the split function, and then you will get this. And then I also showed you the To Csv function, which will help you export it to CSV. And then you can either work on it in Excel, or you can work on it in Stata, or like we'll probably learn about how to working on it in Python, because it's just our 5th session and we had planned 8 sessions, right? So next session we will focus on Pandas, like how to process this data. So what is the homework for you guys? Extract and try to get all of the data together and like play around with it, right? Like, so today's session was a little unusual because I did a lot of Googling, and the point of it was, this is how you will eventually solve most of your problems, because you will have to keep looking for things online by like whatever task you're trying to do. So like we wanted to download a PDF file, so we looked that up, and then we found a solution and we implemented. We wanted to split the column. We found a solution, did not work. We read another one, that worked. So that is the idea, that you will find things, and then you might like they may not work. You may not understand why it is not working, but you can try to resolve that also by looking at the errors. And that's eventually how you will have to do things in Python. You'll have to keep looking for things online, and when you look for things online, you'll be able to learn a lot more functions than we would cover in this workshop. And maybe like come back in the next session and tell us about more functions that you know, and maybe do these things in a better way. If you like feel that, oh, this doesn't seem that elegant, we should do something more elegant. And it's completely possible. There might be other ways which are more elegant, right? So you can think about that, and then we can discuss those next week. Okay, that's it from me. Any questions?
I have a question about the code I uploaded on the Piazza. If you
Okay,
can.
we'll come to that just in a sec. But any questions about what we did today, Deepak?
What is the homework you said?
So I'll post it on Piazza again. But the homework is, so you did the last homework, right? Like you did the district files, you did the state files, but that was just cycling through the files. Now you have to download all the PDFs and then make like one consistent data frame with all the data, right, from all the states. So what you have to think about is when you're appending, like right now, this was all from one state. So I just appended it without thinking anything, right? But one problem, and this is sort of a hint, one problem that you will face. So let's say if you get Assam's data, and then if you get Bihar's data, and then if you append it together, there will be no way to tell which is Assam and which is Bihar. So, think on those lines, think on how to append all of these states together, because eventually what we need to have is, so let's say if you want to look at mortality rates, you should be able to compare all states' mortality together. So you should have one file with data from all states, all districts, all sorts of metrics, and then you should be able to, work from there. So that is the homework. Make one data file for all districts or all states. And I haven't, we haven't talked about how we do, how we process data, but we talked a lot about how to learn about how to do things in Python using online resources. So try doing that and try to see if you can resolve it. That's the assignment. Otherwise, we'll talk about it in the next lecture anyway.
Okay.
Any other questions? Cool. Okay then.
This is not question, but a small suggestion. Could you please upload this video and this code as soon as possible so we can work on it?
Sure. Yeah. Sorry, but we'll make sure. Like I'll upload the code in the next 30 minutes after this session. I will upload this entire log file.
Videos.
Yeah, video takes some time, but we'll definitely try to do that quickly. Yeah.
Okay. More questions, comments, suggestions? No. Okay. So Japni, if we can come back to your question. Japneet, are you still there?
Yes, yes, I am. So I was running this code, okay, that I posted on Piazza. So it was going till Assam, okay, which is the third state, which is the third element on the list, state list.
Right.
Okay. So once it selects the Andaman and Nicobar, it selects all the districts in it. It comes back to the second, which is Andhra Pradesh. It selects all the districts in Andhra Pradesh, like drives back and all. After that, it comes to Assam. It selects the Assam state, but it when it comes to the district list, it throws an error.
Right. So as I replied, I don't know why this is happening, right? Like, so this is like scraping weird things happen. But one reason that this would happen is probably, as I said, because of the fact that by Harushi. Oh, she went. Okay. So one reason why this happens is, as I was saying, it is probably that your district is not visible yet. So when you select Assam, it is possible that when you select Assam, it takes like maybe a fraction of a second longer. For human eyes, it is not visible, but it is possible that Python is like. So did you try doing this with a sleep?
Introducing a break in it.
Yes.
Like after it select all the districts.
After it selects Assam.
Yes.
After you select the state, introduce a break. So give it some time to load the district thing, right? Like, let's go to the website. So if you go to the website,
I think I got it. Like if
we go to district website, now we select Assam, right? Now it goes to this next page, and you see even the web page has changed. So originally it was district fact sheet, and when you select on Assam, the web page, sorry, it doesn't work if you try going again. But if you go to like this, so you get this new web page. So today we learned how to know what the current web page is. So maybe you can use that in some way. And this is like a hint I'm giving you. Instead of like having like a physical or like a hard-coded wait of 1 second or 2 seconds, maybe you can use this information that this URL is changing in some way to know whether your district page has opened up or not.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm assuming this is what is happening. That is like big.
Okay, but it throws a very different error. It throws a very different error that the element is not showing.
Yeah. So the error means that this element is not found, right?
Yes.
So that means that, so if let's say if you try to look for that element on this page, you will not find it. Correct?
Okay. Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, when you are selecting Assam, what is happening is before this page is shown, it tries to look for that element before that page is shown. So since that page has not loaded, that element does not exist.
Okay.
So that's my reasoning. I don't know if that is why it is happening. I'm just saying this is one possible reasoning.
So I'll introduce a break. I'll run it again. Then I'll come back to you, or I'll look on Google. Okay.
Yeah. So like Stack Overflow, you will not find why this is happening, but like again, you can probably look for like whether this. So okay. So the next step, and I don't think this will ever be an issue, is you can check whether this page has a different XPath, because these are all different web pages.
No, but I'm selecting the menu.
This menu, right?
Yeah. So
this menu can have a different web. So this menu can have a different XPath, is what I'm saying.
Yes, XPath is different. First two districts has different XPath, and then others have different XPaths. This also happened to me.
Okay. So so Deepak, there you go. He resolved
it. But
like,
Deepak's code, I saw the Deepak's code as well.
He does not. Yeah, but like Deepak, your code doesn't use different XPaths, right?
Yeah, and it also does not. It uses Chrome. It uses Chrome, but it does not define the Chrome driver as well. So it does not specify the Chrome driver, which in my case was throwing an error.
Oh, I don't know. Like, I haven't run these specific programs, so I cannot comment on what is happening. But like another obvious thing that like as Deepak is pointing out, because these web pages are different. So like this is another web page. So this website is structured a little differently. This is another web page. So you'll have to look and to see that whether the XPath is different, right? So what you can do is you can try out a different XPath. And in the next class, we will talk about how if you get an error, you can try doing different. So like you're trying out different XPaths, right? So like one XPath is for the first two states, which is working for you. Assam, if you see, oh, there is this third XPath for Assam. So you can like find out, okay, what that XPath is, and then you can figure that out. Or, I mean, like this is homework for you. You have this you have this list kind of a thing, right? This is one particular object type, and that is the only object type that is there on this page. So maybe look up if there is a way to find out this object type. So instead of giving it an ID, you'll have to tell Python, look for a drop-down menu or look for this scroll type of a list on this web page, because that will resolve your issue, right? Like no matter what ID that menu has, it will be looking for that menu and it will not be looking for a particular ID. A particular ID usually works because websites are designed consistently, but like this one is weird because things happen. So you can do it like that.
Yeah, okay. I'll try to find the answer for it.
So yeah, so those are two ways, right? Like the easier way is to just see if there is a different XPath and then just use that. The more complicated but the more consistent way to perform would be to look for a way to figure out a way to look
to find to spot the scroll menu on the web page and then select the
use
element.
That. Yes, exactly.
Then select the element from the list which is there, which is on the menu, and then
exactly.
Okay.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Okay. So that is.
Here's another question. Like in the state, when we were selecting only the states, okay, so there was a drop down menu.
Yeah.
Okay, in which we defined the states also.
Yeah.
That the select part that the select state and UTs is not an option. Right. So we do not do it. We have not done it in the district case. So if I find it using the scroll the find thing that you are telling right now, okay, so will I have to define the district list also, that selected district is not an element, rather it is
course.
Okay. Yeah,
because if you just click on this, because otherwise what will happen, it will click on this,
it will
so nothing is happening.
Yes.
So like whatever, and then nothing will happen, right? And then you will get the URL and Python will give you this URL, right? And then you will press back because that is how your code will be structured, right?
Yes. Okay. I'll try this and then I'll come back to you. Okay.
Another, like for the few of you who have remaining, and I will put it on Piazza. Instead of clicking on these, so when we click on this, we get this web page, right? Instead of doing that, is there another way to because like clearly when you're clicking on this, logically what is happening when you're clicking on these district names, it is telling the website that, okay, pull out this page, right? When you click on this, it is telling to pull out this page, right? So this button will have the information within it, right? Like this is essentially a button, and this button contains the information that we want this URL when we click on it. So it is probably possible to not click on the button, but just get that information. So it eliminates. So then what we will be able to do is we will not have to click on any of these, because as we know, clicking on these destroys the link to that web page. So you will not have to click on these. All you will have to do is just get the list and then access that property of that. Like we accessed current URL of driver property, which just told us what this web page is. We did not copy or paste or did anything else, right? We just got that web page. So similarly, we can do something like that. Yeah. So try to think on those lines as well. And again, like I will do this. I will put this online, but I'll put this on Piazza. But this is another thing that you can think about. So there are too many ways to extract things, and you have to minimize your errors or the chance of your error. You will always get errors when you're web scraping because websites are not designed very consistently all the time. You will have some sort of a weird issue or something going on, and you'll have to resolve it. and next class maybe we can try doing some of that. But try to think if you don't have to click on it at all. So essentially what you will want to do is, you remember that we looked at the source code and we were looking into, okay, this is the name and blah, blah. So you'll have to look at the source code and see if you can spot where that URL is. And then again, Google how to extract whatever field that is. Yeah. Okay, that's it. Let's stop. We have gone 15 minutes over, unless anyone has any other question. And I will post the code. I will post this entire console thing today because we did not write a file. I'll post this console, and then you guys can follow from there. Cool. Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
Okay. Thank you. It was a great session.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for coming, guys. Bye.
Thank you, Prankur.
Yeah. Bye-bye.